All right, welcome to Create Together, Publish Better. And this is about content management and how you drive more adoption into Confluence. But let's start first with my story, actually, when I got first in contact with Atlassian Confluence. And that was 7 years ago. I joined a company you may have heard of called Atlassian. And I was hired as an evangelist, which means I'm going to conferences and speak about Atlassian. And after my first conference, I wrote a report about what I learned at the conference and the customer I spoke to. And then I sent that as a Word document to my boss. And my boss said, "Sven, what the hell are you doing here?" And I said, "Wow, what? I thought it's a great report. It's a great resource for you to see what I have done and what I've learned and how I can improve and how we can improve the whole program." And he said, No, don't get me wrong. This is all good. This is great. It's great content. But why do you send it to me? Why don't you send it to the whole company so the whole company can learn from it? Right? So what I did is I wrote a blog post on our internal Confluence instance at Atlassian, and I got so much great feedback saying, "Hey, great job, Sven," but also things like, "Hey, you can improve this and that," or "Great advice when I'm going to the next conference. I will keep that in mind." So really, the whole company, including me, learn from that experience, and this is really the power of Confluence, right? To bring people together, to collaborate together, to learn from each other, and to make the solution stronger. So we all know that Confluence is great. Inline comments, and all this stuff is in Confluence, and this is so great and makes it so great to collaborate. But wait. We also know, or I also know from talking to a lot of customers, Confluence customers, that it's really hard to get people into this collaboration habit, right? And I identified actually two aspects. So I identified a lot of patterns that I heard over and over again after talking to customers. And I put those patterns into two categories. One is the cultural aspects of things, which is very, very strong, and you have to work hard on it. And the other thing is also, what can you do with the tool? How can you improve using the tool to drive more adoption into Confluence? But let's start first with the cultural aspects. Here's the sentence number one that I hear from customers. "Hey, people at our company are still using emails for conversations." And said, yeah, conversations, email, maybe not the best tool. I think we all agree with that. So all this stuff is coming in through email. Can we meet tomorrow? Can you get me feedback of my idea? Look at this article. Should we use this vendor or that vendor? And some of these things are really great for putting it in Confluence. But other things are maybe not great to putting in a Confluence, and less things are actually great for sending out an email. Actually, at K15T or Atlassian, we used internal, just not a lot of emails anymore, because we use two tools, and this is one. Confluence, of course, is for content collaboration, and a chat tool for more spontaneous stuff like, "Can we meet tomorrow?" or "The server's down, I need help," or "Look at this article," and send a link around. So, but what you should do is when you get started with it, you should develop some guidelines and explain people, hey, if we are more than 3 people and talking about a piece of content, it's great to create a Confluence page. So create a Confluence page for that. But if it's just like things like "Can we meet tomorrow?" or stuff like that, chat is the better tool to use here. And to be honest with you, after a long time, you can remove this guideline again, because then it's implemented in actually the collaboration culture that you have in your organization. I tell that people, and people say, "Oh, but creating pages, my instance get messed up if I create so many pages, and it's just the conversations that we maybe have a week or just 2 days or so, and after that we can delete the page again." Guess what? Pages are really cheap. Don't be afraid of creating pages. You can easily create a temp header page and put all the temp pages underneath. or you can create things in your personal space and clean it up afterwards, so don't mess up all the spaces. And sometimes when you collaborate on content, it's growing, and it's not this temporary thing. It's maybe a long living content, so you could move it to another top level page or a parent page, whatever you like. So think about that. Pages are cheap. Don't be afraid of creating too many pages. Just be sure that temporary pages, you clean it up, and I will talk about it later a little bit. Another sentence that I hear a lot: people don't share content in Confluence. They share content everywhere else when they meet on the when they meet or in documents or whatever. Also, here you should have this habit of saying, hey, if somebody says, hey, I have this idea, or here's my product roadmap in a Word document, say, hey, where's your page? Really, show me your page. I want to have a page where I can comment on, where I can maybe also edit stuff. Where is your page? Now, you need a certain amount of pages in Confluence to drive a little bit adoption. So it's a good thing to create pages, so drag people into Confluence, so you can really show the value of creating pages. And at Atlassian, we had a lot of pages in Confluence. Actually, there was really everything was in Confluence, but you can do something like that here. What we do have K15T, have some stuff about what happens when my child is sick, or how can I get lunch, and then drag people in Confluence, and once you have all this momentum in Confluence, and we see that at K15T and also at Atlassian, it's not anymore people are just liking, hey, where can I find the product roadmap, and you guess what, the answer is always there is a page for it, because everything, as I said, is in Confluence. Everything is in Confluence. If it's not there, it didn't happen. This is a sentence that we also used a lot at Atlassian. If it's not in Confluence, it didn't happen. And new people are really getting into the first days and then asking for stuff, and they get always the answer. There's a page for it. I can send you the link or search for it. And then they starting, oh, there's so much information in Confluence, so I don't ask anymore. So I search Confluence. If I don't find it, I ask, of course. But the first thing, I go to Confluence, and then you get the momentum into it. All right, content is static. People are afraid of changing content. Also, this I've seen a lot, and it's because of a great feature that Confluence had, and the feature looks like this. So. There is this thing where you can lock down pages for editing or even for viewing. You can lock it down, so it's restricted page. Think twice before you do that. Really, do you really want to lock down your pages? It really prevents people from collaborating. So think twice before locking down a page. Everything at K15T or Atlassian is open by default. So we don't think about locking things down. Is that something critical? Should we lock that down, this information? No, it's open. Everyone can see it, right? So no one is really looking what you're doing, to be honest. If somebody finds the page, it's great. They are looking probably for content. So everything is opened up by default. And that doesn't mean just the view restrictions. That also mean the edit restrictions. And a lot of people are having problems with that, but it's easy just to communicate your state on the page. Just as the first thing you write the page, you have an info box or a warning box and saying, hey, please don't comment yet. I'm still drafting this and it's still an idea. You can read through it and maybe you have a general comment, but don't comment on small things. I'm still working on it. So please don't comment on that, to just get people not freaked out because for too many comments, but still keep their pages open, right? Because the next thing would be people are locking those pages down, and again, that's not a good thing. You want to have you want to keep people from editing pages and updating pages. Also here, this one is the page is outdated. Also a good thing to do. If you see a page is outdated, press edit, put the warning and point to the new updated page. Why is this all important? Because we just get strong content if we collaborate together. We need to write content as a team. Just this makes our content stronger. Not a single contributor, it's the team that counts. So think about that. Write as a team. That's important. So as I said, develop some communication guidelines. This can help you to get a common understanding what belongs in Confluence and what not, and where should I use chat. And maybe also there's a good thing if you maybe communicate externally, then the only thing you get is email. Communicate via email. And then you need to find a fearless leader, because it's really leading by example. People should see that the CTO or CEO or someone is really commenting on pages, and that helps you. Okay, if this person is probably allowed to express my things in Confluence, and also, they are sharing their updates in Confluence. Maybe I share my updates too in Confluence. So lead by example. Pretty important. All right, so this is the cultural aspects of things. Let's talk a little bit about how you can improve the tool side of things. How can you use Confluence better to drive more adoption, and not just from a cultural people aspect, but also from a tool aspect. Also here, we have 100 spaces or more. We lost the overview. Also seen that a lot. So spaces is a concept that should be pretty static. I've seen that if too many spaces, it's hard to find your project. Or think about projects, for example. If you have projects, don't create a space for each project. That would be my recommendation. Just create a project space, and then actually let people put top level pages for each project under. So I can find my projects very, very easily by just going to the project page and then find the right project there, because it's a tree and I can see that pretty easy. Or think about spaces as, for example, departments. A lot of companies are doing it per department, their different space. Departments are also pretty stable. So my advice would be here, think twice before creating a space. Do you really need that, or can a top level page strategy work better in that case? So think twice before creating pages. Another thing, people don't read my pages. Yeah, so let's assume you have collaborated greatly around your content, and your content is very, very strong, and you love your content, and you wrote everything down, but people don't read your pages. Why? Because they look boring, right? It's a boring, long page, and who should read that? So spice your pages up a little bit. So you can use headers, paragraph, and pictures are pretty good. So just break your content up so people get a mental pause and look at the picture, and then can read on. And they know where they are in the document. This is actually a problem that you have with Confluence, the tool itself. There is no really structure like in Word on the left-hand side, where you can see the structure of the document, all the headers and stuff like that. This is not existing in Confluence per page, on a page level, but it's existing on a top level, down level page level, so you can see it. So recommendation is also here to break up your pages, so you get this great nice page tree that from Word, and you can get that in Confluence too by breaking up your pages. That way it's also easier to find pages. You can search for pages. They have different headers that is specific, or different titles that is specific tied to the topic that they carry in their content body. So this way you can easier identify content, and if you try to find something on a long page, it's really hard to do that. Another thing that I hear a lot is our content is not in a good shape. It was good once and people were contributing, but now it's really rotten and everything looks, and no one wants to use it anymore. And that's what I call the broken, or that what you call the broken Windows syndrome. One window is thrown in, it doesn't take long until the other windows gets thrown in. That's just how I do it. Your content was in a good shape. You're getting more rotten content into it. People are not afraid anymore of putting more rotten content in because it's rotten already. So what can you do? You need to keep your instance clean. And how do you do that? Well, hire a gardener, or get someone who is the gardener. It's a single person that keep the content up to date and get a consistent look and feel. But there's a problem with this gardener concept. And it looks like this. It's a single person. just one person takes care of the whole Confluence instance. And I've seen instances with 20,000 pages, with 50,000 pages and more, which is really hard to maintain for a single person, right? And how do you know if the content is still up to date, if you're not the content owner? That's why, a little bit provocative here, but we say the gardener is dead. Long live the content owners. Have a team of content owners that knows exactly their content. So they know exactly if content is out of date or if content is still there. And then they know also who to tap on which shoulders to just update the content. So and it's actually just the gardener concept. There's teaming up. So you can team up as gardeners, meet maybe once a month, have a consistent look and feel, and then go back to your teams and clean up your team's content. So if you follow all these advices, Confluence is great again, right? But wait, I showed you this here before, this page. Great, you split up your content, now it's more readable. Is it? There's so much stuff on this page that pulls me away from the content here. So, and think about that. 80% of the people that are logging into Confluence are just consuming content. They just read content and don't release content. So how do we optimize for these 80%? And we call it just to amplify the reader's experience here for Confluence. How can you do that? Well, there's a scroll app. So it's an add-on for Confluence that K15T is offering, and it's called Scroll Viewport. And with Scroll Viewport, you can install it. This is what you saw before. And now you can start Scroll Viewport to show it in another view. And you see this is the default theme for Scroll Viewport, but just the default one, and removed all the clutter. So you cannot see who's the author, or the author is just on the left-hand side and not under the title anymore. When was it created? When was it changed? All maybe important information, but from the reader's perspective, not. So optimizing that. But as I said, you can totally customize it. Scroll Viewport is totally customizable. So for example, we use Scroll Viewport for our own help documentation, where people can look up the documentation and get some ideas. So this is Confluence with a Scroll Viewport installed, and you can see here this is an article, also pretty nice. And as you recognize over in the right hand corner, you can see the version. That's another add-on or app that K15T is offering, and called Scroll Versions. So you can pick which version you want to select. So you have different versions. You can use it a little bit like Git, where you can branch and merge and stuff like that. So it's an add-on where you can versionize your content in a space. You may know this page if you're an Atlassian customer, the Atlassian Confluence support page. It's also made with Scroll Viewport and Scroll Versions. Here you can see we even support different variants like cloud and server, and these are the articles. SAP is using it, is using Scroll Viewpoint, and obviously also here they have totally customized their experience with Scroll Viewport. Or BMC use Scroll Version. You can see on the left hand side you can pick the product version, and you can pick even the language. And this is another tool that we're offering. It's called Scroll Translations. So you see it's getting more complicated. Versions, translations, different variants. So you can pick the language and translate your content. If you want to find out more about our content management apps, you can go to k15t.com and look for the Scroll Viewport, Scroll Versions, and Scroll Translations. But just to wrap up here, think about changing stuff in your culture. Change it slowly. Like cultural changes are pretty hard. You can use the tool a little bit better and improve that. Have gardeners and so on. Think about how to break up your long pages, for example, and then try to amplify the reader experience, because, as I said, 80% of people are just reading content instead of creating content. And that's it from me. As I said, go to k15t.com to find out more about our Scroll apps. And thanks for your attention here.